Have you ever thought it is too quiet while you're working and not had to worry about what the kids or hubby are up to? No, me either. But for those who have, this may be the podcast for you. Or for anybody, really. Crafting After Dark is for those who work rather than sleep or have thoughts that never want to turn off. We talk about everything and anything, from crafting, mental health, to kids. The podcast for background noise or those who actually want to listen. It's time for Crafting After Dark.
Has fear ever kept you away from trying something new? Has something someone said kept you from something you have been longing to try for a long time? This is exactly what has been happening to me for so many years, and I'm pretty sure that it's been happening to so many of us as well. But why do we allow fears and comments that others will make keep us from doing those things that we truly want to do and want to try? I need to say that there is a trigger warning to this post. Well, it does speak of crafting. It also speaks of mental health issues. No, not issues, areas. Mental health areas that some may also have been experiencing. I strongly believe that we need to talk about these areas and we need to make it so that those of us who do experience them are not ashamed and can get the help that we so truly want and need. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm a great bottler of emotions. I like to just suppress everything until, boom, it all comes rushing out. It never seems to gush out in a cool way either. It's either one of those, I am done and want to lash out at a few people. No, who am I kidding? When I say I'm done and I want to lash out at a few people, I mean, I want to lash out at everyone in sight. And the tears from this situation, they could fill a pool, and not a kiddie pool either. I'm one of those people that when I'm upset, I will cry. And generally, it doesn't mean that you're breaking me down. It just means that I don't know how to process those emotions that I am feeling at that time. So there's a couple of things that I've started doing that have truly helped my healing. And the first started in September or October of 2021, I want to say. And that is that I started to see a therapist. And let me tell you, I've had my fair share of therapists who, honest to God, were absolutely fucking horrible. They were, no. They are the reason that therapists were given a bad name. And all they were concerned about was the clock behind them and getting me out the door. They didn't know what I was saying, and every time I saw them, I had to recap everything that we had talked about in the last session. And to me, it was like, if you're not going to listen and actually focus on what I'm saying, I don't want to be here. But these were also therapists that I had when I was in the Mormon church. Therapists back in the early 2000s when therapy was a whole different ballgame. I honestly believe therapists have changed since then. I think society has changed a lot since then in accepting the fact that we do need to speak to people. So back to my therapist that I have currently, though. If I haven't mentioned yet, holy shit, I love her. She is absolutely amazing. And when I first went to see her, I was seeing her at a clinic, say 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes tops from where I lived. And she was amazing. And then she is so good that when she left that clinic, shortly after I started seeing her, I think maybe 6 months after, I tracked her down, found her, and started to go to the new clinic, which is an additional 15 minutes away. So I have to drive 30 minutes there and 30 minutes back for an hour session. But you know what? That is totally okay. I'm totally fine with doing that because she's so fucking amazing. So let me tell you a little bit about my therapist. She's the first person that has ever truly listened to me and made me feel like I'm being listened to. She sits there, she'll take some notes, but generally she's listening. And if you haven't been able to tell, I kind of swear a lot. It's just a part of me. I suppressed it for a long time and pretended I didn't swear when I was part of the Mormon church, but when I regained my freedom, I started swearing again because it's who I am. I'm just comfortable. Anyways, Don't judge me. And she also does not judge me. She remembers things that are so insignificant, but yet so consequential to our conversations. She remembers them. And it's absolutely amazing. I told her something about my childhood that my mother said to me one time, and 4 or 5 sessions later, she brought that back up. And I was just like, holy shit. I sat there and I cried. And she looked at me and she said, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, you know what? Nobody has ever remembered something like that I've said and brought it back up, especially somebody that is not my husband. And so to me, that was just absolutely amazing. But for me to not be judged in a negative way when I tell her things that I have done, it has made me feel like, I can't even describe it. Like, I grew up being judged, and I grew up being told that was all in my mind, that those judgments that people were making were me. It was all me. So this therapist is just, yeah, I don't even have words sometimes. Amazing for me not to have words. But anyways, so let me talk to you about why it is that I went to see her. And I think sometimes it's important to talk about the whys, because so often we brush past them. And this is where the trigger warning starts. I just want to preface this. So if you need to, come back at another time when maybe you feel ready to hear some things. But I want to talk about my journey for a minute. So at the time, I was feeling very up and down emotionally. I don't even know why. And I still don't know why I'm up and down all the time. Well, I kind of do, but that's a story for another day. And there had been some challenges that I'd been going through, and I was overwhelmed all the time. And I don't even know how to describe it. It was a sense of feeling like everything I touched was pure and utter shit. On this one Sunday, I remember I just couldn't stop crying. And it's funny because I remember one day when I was at work, one of my coworkers just couldn't stop crying this one day. And no matter what she did, she just couldn't stop crying. And I thought, that would be so horrible, that feeling. Let me tell you, that feeling is horrible. To not be able to stop the tears and to try to pretend that you're not crying is, it's a hard one, because you want people to think, hey, I'm not crying, but I am. So they left, and I did what I'm good at doing, and I tried to push my feelings down, and I had the house to myself. Maybe not a good thing, but it was what it was. I threw on music, and I just played it really loud, and I started to clean, and I organized the pantry, because for me, when I'm in a state of chaos and uncontrol, I need to get control of something, and cleaning is something that I can have control over. So I purged the pantry and reorganized it and cried and purged, and I got it done. Then I called my daughter-in-law, who is also a therapist, and I said, hey, this is what just happened. Please don't tell anybody, but I need to talk to somebody. Can you hook me up? And God, did she ever hook me up. She pointed me in the direction of a place that she knew of. And the first thing I said, because she works as a counselor for the church, and I said, they're not Mormons. There's no Mormons there, right? It's not like a church facility. And she said no, that everything would be okay, and to trust her. And I did. I trusted her, and I'm glad I did, because my therapist is fucking amazing. She's fantastic, and I love her. So, I saw her for about 6 months before she moved to her new clinic. This particular Mother's Day, we had the grandkids the night before, and then my husband went to play soccer in the morning, and he just did a lot of things for him that day. And up until this point, I had already been feeling down. I had been feeling like people were taking pieces of me constantly. There was a lot going on as well, just within just some personal things and other things. But yeah, there was a lot going on, and one person did. Our oldest daughter wished me a happy Mother's Day. Everybody else had forgotten or just didn't say anything. My husband didn't say anything. He was gone from 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning until like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And he just didn't see what was wrong. And let me just make a note that my husband is an amazing person. And he has been vital in me. He has recently saved my life on many occasions because he knows how to help me now. He knows what to do and how to talk, and he understands. And I mean, honestly, I lucked out when I married him. He's fucking amazing. But that day he was a little obtuse, and it was the first time in, I would say, almost over 3 decades that I wanted to cut myself again. And I cut myself as a teenager when I was 13, 14. And everybody just thought I was doing it to get attention and, just something else she's doing because, she's a rebel. Because I went against what I was supposed to be doing as a perfect little Mormon girl, that's a whole different story right there. But anyways, so yeah, I did it as a teen and then I stopped. And then 30 plus years later, I wanted to do it again. And the urge was so big. I was shocked with how much I wanted to do it. So anyways, when my husband came home and he's like, I don't understand why you're upset, I had to open up to him and I had to tell him about everything, about wanting to take my life just before I started counseling, about wanting to cut myself, about some days wishing just that I wasn't here, and many days not wanting to be here. And so I think in doing that, it was the best thing that I ever did. Best thing. It took me a long time, and it was something that my counselor, myself, and my husband all decided that it was to be done when I was ready. In a fit of anger, I was ready. Isn't that always the way? When you're angry, it's when you dump all this shit on people. But I was ready. We had agreed that if I was ever to be in a situation where I was going to do something dangerous, I was going to let him know. But up until then, I didn't have to say anything. And if I did say, hey, I'm not comfortable going anywhere or doing that, he knew not to question it and not to ask. And he would just be okay. And he knew that at some point I would talk about it. And now I do. So anyways, when a counselor goes to a new clinic, they can't take any other files with them. And so when she went from one clinic to the next, she didn't have any of her files, none of her notes, nothing on me. It had been a few months since she'd seen me, and she had seen many, many other people. And when I went in and we started talking, she brought up stuff from like one of our first 1 to 3rd session, but like the early on sessions, she brought that back up. And I was like, holy shit, you really do care about me because you remembered this stuff. Like you truly remembered this stuff. So again, something else that was completely impressive. So how does all of this relate to crafting? One of the things I did after wanting to cut was I went and got a tattoo. Now, keep in mind, I am a huge needle phobe. I hate needles, completely hate needles. I detest them. They freak me the fuck out. So I realized after having my first tattoo that the feeling is totally different. And it felt like it does when you're cutting yourself. So for me, it was very therapeutic. I wanted to cry. I felt like I wanted to cry after my first tattoo was over. Now here is where the creativity, the crafting portion of it comes in. I took 2 different images and I put those images together to create the image that I wanted. And then I took it to actually one of my customers who is a tattoo artist who I became friends with. I trusted her. So she has become my tattoo artist, and she took those images, and because she has a little more creativity and a lot more talent, she was able to fine tune it and get it to where it needs to be perfect. And it is just that, it's perfect. And so the images of a woman, and the top of her head is spewing out flowers. And to me, it's a representation of me, of how I feel, of who I am currently. It's a woman who is feeling like her head is screaming constantly. That for some reason, I just am always in this internal struggle of who I am and who am I supposed to be and who people think I should be. And there's always this struggle of what is expected of me. And I'm learning to take myself and make it so that I am me. And it's an amazing feeling. It truly is. It's scary most of the time, but it's an amazing feeling. And when you finally get the power to control what you want and how you want it and when you want it, it is one of the fucking scariest things that you will ever do, but yet one of the most fucking amazing things that you will ever feel. She did that for me. And then my second one, I truly used my talent from designing in Inkscape and Silhouette Studio and Cricut Design Space. And I went into Inkscape and I took a few images that I liked. And again, I put all these different images together to get what I wanted to represent my husband and myself coming together as a family, with both of our sides of our family, are my 3 kids, his 2 kids, and coming together as one family. I also included our 3 grandchildren. She again took it and tweaked it, fine-tuned it, and made it the amazing piece that it is now, because it truly is amazing. But the thing with the first tattoo is that I was going to color it in. I was going to color the first one in, the flowers, whenever I wanted to cut. And I haven't had the money to do that lately. But I have had the urge to cut. So what I've done is I've taken my craft markers and I've used those to color it in. And I color in a few petals, and then they wash off and I just color them in again. But do you know how many people told me that, oh, you need to color them in, and you need to, if you haven't done it in 6 months, then you need to just go and have it filled in. And I said, no, that's not the purpose of the tattoo, and that's not what I'm going to do. And they insisted, and this is where, like, hey, I'm discovering what I want. I'm developing a voice of who I am. And I said, no, this is not happening. This is what I want. This is me. This is that is not you. Yes, this is me. This is who I am. And that is what I'm going to do. And I put my foot down and I haven't colored it in. I just want it just a black outline. But for the second tattoo, what I did is I remembered that I had a bunch of tattoo paper, temporary tattoo paper. And so what I did is I didn't know exactly where I wanted it. I knew that eventually I wanted to make a sleeve up my arm of my life, my family, my journey. So I printed off a bunch of different sizes of the same tattoo, the second one I got of me and my husband and our life together. And I put them on different spots where I thought I wanted them. Again, many people told me where I should put it and where I shouldn't put it. And I chose that way. So also I like to cut, but I also like to pick. I'm a picker. And so I would put the temporary tattoo on, and then I would just sit and pick at it and peel it off and then wash it off when it didn't look perfect anymore. And that's how I knew where I wanted it. But it's with the talents that I learned from crafting that got me to the point where I could design my own tattoo, because I looked and I didn't see anything I liked, but I knew what I wanted. I knew exactly what I wanted. And so I created exactly what I wanted through the things that I've learned with working with all the different crafts that I've worked with. And I've learned that a lot of people, when they're crafting, it's their way of regaining control and to take themselves away from that place in their mind where there's a lot of negativity. And crafting helps with that. Crafting helps to give your mind a break and focus on something else. I want you to know that you are not alone. You're not alone. We need to be loud, and we need to make sure that people understand that this is not something that needs to be pushed under the rug. We need to talk about it. We need to discuss our struggles. We need to. And I've recently discovered through my 1.5 to 2 years of therapy that there is no shame in being vulnerable. Vulnerability is what helps us to grow. And we can't grow. I mean, if you look at when you first started crafting, you were very vulnerable. You were very vulnerable, and that is how you were able to learn, to be taught. I'm sorry that this was such a long spoken blog. I am going to be doing more, and I'm really hoping to get a therapist on here to talk with me about different things. The spoken blog is really there to put on when you're crafting or whatever, or you just need to hear another voice, to hear that you're not alone. And that's what I'm here for. If you're listening to this as opposed to reading it on my blog, if you go to the link below in this podcast or in the video version of this, you will find a link to my website. Or my website is www.thecraftershub.ca, and there you'll see a tab for the blogs. In it, you'll find this blog, which is Crafts and Tattoos, a Summer of Mental Health. In that post, you will find links to a couple different resources. So the first resource that I want to point out is if you are a cutter, there is a link to a site that gives you 146 things to do in replace of cutting. The second is a link to a website called Good Therapy Canada Counseling Directory. And that will link you to counselors within Canada. So you just put in your province and it'll take you there. And I believe this link works as well for the United States. So if you are in the United States, you can find one there. If you are not in Canada or the United States, please find a therapist. And it is okay when you find a therapist to interview that therapist to see if you like them. If you don't like them, don't go back. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Seriously, life is too short. Don't waste your time or money on people that suck and that really don't want to help you. And if you're really feeling lonely or you feel like you're going to hurt yourself, call in Ontario. There's Coast, or maybe just in Hamilton, but there's Coast. There's the suicide hotline, or even just go to a neighbor or something, just so that you're not alone, and just say, hey, I know you don't know me and I might seem weird, but can we just talk? Can I just sit with you for a minute? Because I feel like I'm not safe. But talk to somebody. Find a person that you will trust and that you can trust to be your person to rely on when situations like this happen. But just remember, there is no shame in being vulnerable, because that's how we learn and that's how we grow. Have a great day, guys.